I'm recording my homily for the second Sunday after Easter, or finishing the Easter octave, which is a Divine Mercy Sunday. And so right behind me we have the image of the Divine Mercy. And my homily this weekend wasn't entirely on the Divine Mercy theme, if you want to call it that. Other than, God's mercy, I think, is ordered towards patience. It's ordered towards Him demonstrating to us, God demonstrating to us His patience with us, that we are not perfect a lot of times, and God understands that. But what's also implied in that is that His hope and His desire is that we persevere, is that we never give up. And so the path to heaven is not marked by the moments that we were perfect, but by the moments that we never gave up and we kept trying. And so we can recognize in our life imperfection, but we don't stop, right? We don't give up. Okay. When we were dealing with the whole we can't have Mass thing during Lent, it was a lot easier to make sense of it during the Lenten season because it fit. The fasting, the Eucharistic fasting, the sacrifices being made, the not being able to do what we want to do, it all made sense during Lent because that's kind of Lent. But now that it's Easter, it just feels wrong. It just feels so wrong. It's contrary to everything that we believe about Easter. And even the scriptures kind of rub it in because it says, so this is in the first reading that we had on Sunday. So this is the Acts of the Apostles. Every day they devoted themselves to meeting together. We can't do that. In the temple area, breaking bread in their homes. In other words, coming together to pray together. We can't do that. They ate their meals with exultation. We're not really doing that. And sincerity of heart. Hopefully we're doing that. Praising God and enjoying favor with all the people. Well, yeah, we're doing it on Facebook or YouTube, right? And so it just doesn't have the feelings that I think naturally go with celebrating Easter. So it's been difficult, it's frustrating. However, let's try to find some value still in what Jesus is doing through the midst of this, even though our lived experience is not matching the liturgical year. Let's see what we can do. So, second reading, Peter, right? He says, "In this you rejoice, although now for a little while you may have to suffer through various trials." All right, we're getting a taste of that. "So that the genuineness of your faith, more precious than gold that is perishable, even though it's tested by fire, may prove to be for praise, glory, and honor at the revelation of Jesus Christ." In other words, that the challenges that we have can be purified, like gold is purified. Gold is, what's the word we use for it? Is when you melt it, purified. I'm forgetting the word. But that's what our faith needs to be. In the testing, perhaps that can happen, okay? I was talking to somebody the other day, and I was talking about how I think we can kind of put people into three basic categories about how they're responding spiritually to our circumstances. So the first circumstance is people are hungry. And I hear it from people. They want Mass. They want to come to Mass. They're hungry for the sacraments, and it's frustrating. All right? That's a good thing. The second category of people is people who can just kind of take it or leave it. Maybe they come to Mass because mom tells them they have to, or because they're a little kid, or they're a teenager, or their spouse, so it's an adult, but they can just kind of take it or leave it. They're not really right now feeling like they're missing anything, but they have nothing against it either, right? So it's just, it's just kind of there. And then the third group of people are people right now they're kind of relieved. It's like, I'm glad I don't have to go to Mass, So, in other words, faith to them really just comes down to an obligation. Somebody's probably pushing them to do it, whether it's a spouse, a parent, or my guilt trips. Anyway, so So, but these are not three distinct categories that are permanent. We've all been in one of those categories, or all three of them at some point in our life, right? Whether it's just we wake up in the morning and we're just feeling horrible and it's just like, oh, I don't want to go today, right? So you have that moment of weakness. Or maybe it was a moment where you were just preoccupied with other things. And so, oh yeah, Mass. Oh yeah. You know, it's like take it or leave it kind of thing. Or you're really hungry for the sacraments. Okay. I bring this up to recognize for us to be patient. So like God's divine mercy, for us to be patient with ourselves and with each other. If your spouse is maybe not where you're at in your faith journey, be patient with them, right? Walk with them, but be patient with them. If your kids are kind of fighting you or they're just not in the same place that you are spiritually, be patient with them. Don't give up. Don't let them say, hey, Mom, I don't want to go to Mass, and then just say, oh, okay. No. We still push them, right? But we're patient with them. Be patient with their heart, okay? All right. So an example of this, I've been reading, one of the things I've been doing during this time is I've been reading little saint stories. They're about 10 to 15 pages long from a magazine called From the Rooftops. I think that's what it's called, From the Rooftops. Anyways, if you want to know what it is, email me and I'll send you, I always say I'll put a link in the description. I never remember to do that. But anyways, I will, if you want it, I think it's called From the Rooftops. Anyways, every month in their magazine, they have a story about a saint. And so I've just been slowly reading through them. And this week I read for St. Francis Xavier. Okay, now, you probably know a little bit about St. Francis Xavier, that he was really and truly one of our greatest missionaries, one of the most impassioned missionaries that we've had in the 2,000 years of our church. He ended up traveling all over the place, okay? I want to tell you a little bit about his own faith journey, though, just to edify ourselves that we're perhaps maybe not always where we'd like to be. And God is very patient with us, and for us to be patient in this journey, okay? So when he was a young man, he was in the university, and his roommate was a gentleman named Peter. Now, Peter was a little more advanced spiritually than he was, and I say that in the sense that he was a little more excited about his faith than Francis was, okay? Now, Peter had a friend. His friend was named Ignatius. We would come to know him as Saint Ignatius of Loyola, okay? Ignatius was very, very new in his faith journey, and he was looking for someone to be kind of a spiritual mentor to him. So he was going to Peter and asking him to kind of help mentor him along. So Peter's mentoring Ignatius. Well, Ignatius is growing leaps and bounds in his faith. So when they would get together, Francis, who was the roommate of Peter, would hear them talking, and he would say at that time, he was just like, oh man, are they talking about Jesus again? Are they talking about faith? Are they praying again? Now, have you ever had that struggle, maybe with your spouse, or you've heard other married couples talk about that, where one is they're just on different wavelengths of faith, and then that one spouse is just like, oh, are we going to pray the rosary again? You know? And so those three categories, right, is where are we and where are our loved ones? And God's very patient with us. Now, deep down, all of us want to be excited about our faith. We want to have that deeper meaning, but we're not all there yet, right? So that's where Francis was. But Ignatius began to peer into the heart of Francis and see he was not happy. There was this spiritual stress that he was carrying. There was this tension in his life. And Ignatius was very patient with him, but would not give up on Francis. So when Francis would buck at it, when he would push back, Ignatius was patient, but he would just slowly prod him along, right? To slowly keep at it. And you can imagine Peter and Ignatius praying a lot for Francis. Well, slowly but surely, Francis Xavier would become really excited about his faith. He would slowly open his heart up to it. And him, with Ignatius, with a couple others, they would begin what we now know as the Jesuits. They started the Jesuit order. And so the beauty of that community, it's a very small community. Now, you know what's interesting? So in the Magnificat, this little daily missal that I carry around with me everywhere, they have these little articles in there every once in a while that say, that they are titled, How the Catholic Church Changed the World. So they have all different kinds of articles, you know, whether it was some monk who was a pioneer of science in the study of genetics, or Catholic hospitals or universities, or how the Catholic Church influenced the school systems, or just how the Catholic Church has influenced the world, right? Has changed the world. And it so often comes down to one person who chose to do something about some problem in the world, right? But it was also somebody who persevered, somebody who didn't give up. Because it's so easy to give up. Ignatius would become one of those people. St. Francis Xavier would become one of those people, right? So, kind of taking this in, patience and perseverance. Let's just slowly plod along, right? We're living in difficult times. We are people of the resurrection. We're living in difficult times. There's suffering around us, and so we persevere, right? We just keep going at it. Saint Francis Xavier was a missionary in Japan for a little while. Years later, after that, the ruling party of Japan would close Japan down to the Western world, and they would kick out all the missionaries. And so the Catholic Church suffered greatly. They would come back 250 years later. The missionaries would come back to Japan and find these Catholic communities, they had not just been surviving, but in their own way, they had been thriving. For 250 years, they did not have the Mass. They did not have the Eucharist. They did not have the sacraments. And when they came back, in their own way, they were thriving. These communities had actually grown, which was amazing. So, kind of puts things in perspective of our own suffering and our own trials, right? It's not to say that we can just do away with the sacraments or we don't need the sacraments. Not at all. But let's persevere. Okay? All right. God bless you, and I will see you next week. Now, I know I've said I'm trying to do my daily Mass homilies, and I have not been doing them. I am now thinking if they're looking at extending this stay-at-home thing, I've been spending a lot of time today trying to figure out how I can stream on YouTube, so not on Facebook, but on YouTube, my daily Masses. And so I'm looking into that. I haven't decided if I'm going to do it yet, but I'm just trying to get all my ducks in a row so that if I just start doing it, I can figure out how to do that. Okay, I still have a couple issues that I haven't quite figured out, but I'll get there. All right? All right, God bless you all.